Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Hi and welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. This show is designed to give you actionable and practical help and advice which will improve your management skills and get you the best results you can. Make sure, if you haven't already, take the time to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode, and share it, because sharing is caring. Okay, enough plugging the show for today, and let's get on with it. Well, I can bet at some point in your life you have all been in the position where you've been asked to give your best advice, feedback and knowledge to people. And despite your best efforts and what you think was the best advice in the world, the person who asks for the advice doesn't take a blind bit of notice. They normally plough on, doing the same old thing and getting the same results over and over again. I think Einstein spoke about it once. According to some, he's meant to have said that that's the definition of madness, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results. I'm not sure if Einstein said that or not, but it sounds like a pretty good thing to be thinking about. If you do keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same results. It's so frustrating. It really makes you feel like, why do I bother? Well, just to help you understand it, it's not just you. We all get it. Inside and outside of work. The real art is knowing how to handle this in a positive way, how not to stop doing the feedback and the positive advice, because it's a free gift which you're giving people. Who'd pay for advice like this? I don't know. But if you can find a business out of it, well, go for it. And of course, you're there to try to help and improve people's efforts. And as a leader, that will help you get the results. So let's first look at why we think people don't want to take your brilliant advice. Well, of course, it's arrogance, big-headedness, ego. They don't want to learn. They're just stupid. Well, that could be the case. But in my first observation, and I think this is an observation that you sometimes have to reflect, maybe they just don't think your advice is very good. Your words of wisdom are not as wise as you think they are. And you know, that's fine. You can get pretty egotistic when you think you know something, especially if the golden piece of advice is the best thing that you've ever said after years and years of experience. Now, we all know that some people won't get on the same page, that there will be a point where they'll just go in one ear and go out the other. Now, this outside work isn't a problem. I say it isn't a problem. It's a frustration, but it's not a problem. Your friends, your family, your wife, your husband, you want to influence them. You want to give them the best advice you can, but you can't force it upon them. Now, we all know if you're going to try to give somebody some constructive feedback, and it's definitely going to be constructive feedback, and it's a family member, try to tell them how they should drive. That's not going to go down really well, is it? And how about telling them about their life choices and what they should and shouldn't do? All I can hear is that you're on a road to a huge, huge row and you should just pull to the left. If you live in England, you'll know what that means. But pull to the left and just have a moment before you start doing it. Because advice to family and friends can be very, very difficult. If you try to use a feedback model on what you feel your partner's downfalls are, it becomes personal. Now at work, you can always think that this is going to be a different thing because your words of wisdom as a manager are slightly different to the words of wisdom you are as a friend or as a family member. And you expect people to change when you've given them the advice to change. You've got a power dynamic in there. The whole idea of leadership and management is to get a positive change and to drive the business forward. So they might not like your advice, but they need to make some changes. So when it comes to your advice, be that good or indifferent, how is that how can you approach this and get it to stick? Away from work, we have our ways. But at work, let's hope that we can start to make some positive changes by using the advice. Now, the biggest advice here, in both cases, as in away from work and in at work, is be consistent in what you're doing. And so if you're going to give some advice to someone, be consistent in that advice. Flip-flopping all the time with advice just frustrates people. That's inside and outside of work. But if we look at the inside work, there's obviously the really, really strong feedback model that can help change people's ways of thinking and give them positive movement in the right direction. You may hear people sipping the idea of criticising being feedback, and it's not. Criticism is not feedback. Criticism goes down the road of being personal. It's taken as an attack of a behaviour directly. You're showing them that their behaviour is a negative impact on something, and that's really not what the idea of a feedback model is. The idea is you're giving feedback to improve that person. You might get frustrated by it or by their actions that they've done, but the feedback model isn't around criticising that person. It becomes a he said, she said argument if you don't do it correctly. And the basic feedback model, and I won't go into it in too much depth, is, when you're giving that person the feedback, you're asking them, do they want to take the feedback for a start? And if they do, you're saying, look, when you do X, it causes Y, and that's a problem. Now, can you do something different next time? You're opening it up to a very simple conversation, very transactional. It's aimed at improving. When you do X, it causes Y. This is a problem. Well, you need to do something different. What can you do different next time? But away from the formal feedback, which we should all be giving, as it's a gift, you can also get asked your advice as a manager. Now, here is an area you need to be very careful in. You must be honest and trustworthy, because that's what you are when giving advice. You want to have an open team relationship. And the one-to-ones, obviously, is another good place where you can have these conversations, allows people the time to speak about maybe non-work stuff and ask for your advice. Now, you might get people just dropping in. The close the door moment. They come into your office, have you got a moment? It's never a moment, is it? But if you got a moment, have you got a minute? It's never a minute either. And you want to sit down, the door closes and he says, or she says, hi, can I have some advice on something? Okay. Now, there's a lot in that sentence as a manager you have to be aware of. But you need to listen and go through it with that person because you are there as their boss, mentor, coach, and sometimes friends. But there's things to be watching out for when people want to ask for advice, because you are in a position of leadership, and a position of leadership means you carry power, and that power can very much reinforce someone's thoughts, but could also be detrimental to somebody else. So what you normally find when people ask you that advice is they want to confirm a belief or a criticism. That person wants you or wants to get the idea of what you think about somebody or somebody's action. And they might be asking, what do you think so-and-so did when they did this? Did you see somebody in that meeting do that? So, you've got to be careful. Is that person actually wanting to reinforce something? Or is he going to use that to say, well, the boss thinks this next time they have the conversation? There's also the people who want to have gossip, chatter, general stuff. And again, it's not a professional level. You are a person, a human, nothing wrong with that. Be careful as a manager not to slip into gossip and chatter. You're no good at the end of it because it'll be held against you. Now, something that's really important as a manager when somebody comes and asks for advice is, I want an off-the-record comment, they might say, or off-the-record conversation. Now, this is really, you've got to really be careful with this because, you are being given some information that you may have to action. And it's very clear that that person might be wanting to pass on something to you, wants you to do something, giving you that monkey, as a 1 minute manager used to talk about. But there's also another level, is that they could be saying something that's quite serious. And if they're saying it's off the record, they don't want to be involved, you need to make it clear to that person, well, look, this will be on the record if you're asking me. So if you're going to tell me something and I really want to help you, we need to be on the same page here. So there's something to watch out there. Obviously, there's genuine advice as well. A person might just have a situation that they need help on. And as a personable manager, you want to be able to talk to that person, have a conversation, and share what you think they could and couldn't do. It becomes difficult when it's a mental health issue or a personal issue away from home, that you're not being too much of advice. You've still got to keep your neutrality in certain instances because it's up to that person when it's a decision away from work. It's not they go home and decide they're going to leave the husband or the wife or the partner and it's because my boss said I should. It's not what you want. You're going to have some strange people banging on your door if you say that. You have to make sure that you are not committing to anything or taking sides or giving guidance which is too much to one way. They're looking maybe to confirm some actions and take some actions that maybe isn't what you want to do. So just be aware. You should always have a manager that you're never off the record. You're always going to get measured for your responses. So make sure that the monkeys and the demons aren't getting passed to you and you end up on your shoulders. You should obviously, back to my point, you should always support people. You get them in the right direction, give them the support. But if people are going to go, if it wants people not to go any further than you and they want to share these things, it's got to be careful what you can and can't share. If it's something that's going to affect your business, could affect it in a criminal way or even in a personal way, you're going to have to make sure that you're doing the right processes to make sure that is going in the right direction, because the office or the factory needs to make sure you've got a person who is neutral in some respects. And of course, advice should always be given to improve. And it will never stop people giving advice. You just need to make sure that you use the feedback model, that you're open to the facts that people are there, that you're not trying to tackle everything and take everyone's problems off them. And you should always make sure that you are getting the results and driving the team. So there's nothing wrong with giving advice and feedback that makes them stop, rethinks their approach and their strategies and comes out stronger at the end. Because at the end of the day, as a business manager, you've got to make sure your team are performing to the best of their abilities to make sure you hit the results you need. Well, thanks for listening and hopefully taking my advice. As always, I'm really keen to hear what you thought about the show. So if you can give me your feedback at managermattpodcast@gmail.com. I answer all my own emails and would love to engage in new and old topics. And one last thing, please try to apply what you've learnt today, because words are cheap and actions drive the world around, as we know. Well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.